welcome to this new episode of Take a Look, the EPP's interview series on digital policy. And today we're going to take a look with Lydia Pereira. Lydia Pereira, hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. You have been a member of the European Parliament with the EPP group since 2019 for the Portuguese party PSD, Partido Social Democrata. And you are also, of course, president of YEP, Youth of the European People's Party, a very active member of the EPP. So I'm very happy to have you here today on Take a Look. And we're inviting you because, along with the many other files that you're working on in Parliament, you're working on two reports related to cryptocurrency. Now we are hearing more and more about crypto in the news, also as users, of course. And just as many innovations and technologies, there are opportunities in there. But there are also many things that we have to look out for, and this is where you step in as a lawmaker. Now, the adoption of cryptocurrency is really speeding up, and technology typically is far ahead of the regulations that govern it. So your work is super important to try to get it right for Europe when it comes to approaching cryptocurrency by making sure we seize innovation, but at the same time we balance the issues that arise with it. So my first question would be for you, why now? Why are we talking so much about it? Why does it matter? What are some of the reasons why policymakers really have to take a look at this, at crypto?
Yeah, thanks for bringing this important topic, and it starts being on top of the political agenda. Cryptocurrencies are not that new. They are now being more and more used, but they've been in the market since 10 years. And when we refer to the blockchain, that is the technology underlying the use of cryptocurrencies, it's also not that new. It's more than 10 years as well. I think we are talking about 2 decades of this technology, but it is now being developed in different ways. We also now have other possibilities for the use of the blockchain that goes beyond the cryptocurrencies. But this is just to say that only now cryptocurrencies are being more used, and therefore the reason why we have to look into that. It's very important that all policymakers are well aware of this new, I can call it product. And if we want to make a comparison, if we look at, for example, when the use or the use of the stock markets became more democratized, if you want, that's exactly the same thing that we are seeing with cryptocurrencies. And therefore, we really have to equip our legal framework to make sure that, on the one hand, we protect the investors, the consumers, but on the other hand, that we also harness the potential of innovation that these products bring to the markets or to the financial markets. So if we look globally on the main hotspots for cryptocurrencies, we have the US and we have Asia, and we have a growing market in Europe. I mean, it's a growing market globally, but in Europe, the numbers are quite interesting. Just last year, we had a very substantial increase of the number of users of cryptocurrencies. And it's interesting to also reflect upon the ages of these profile users. We are talking about people on average between 25 and 35 years of age, which means that they will keep on using it throughout their lives, but it's also relevant, and this is why legislation has to come in order to safeguard the volatility that the market brings, in the sense that there has to be some investor protection, and people have to be well aware of what they are using, but the indication of the legislation cannot be just to prohibit, which is something that we've been witnessing, unfortunately, by some political groups, that there's this kind of interest to somehow prevent the use of cryptocurrencies instead of understanding its full spectrum and develop legislation accordingly. So, as I said, on the one hand, we have to provide for investor protection, consumer protection. On the other hand, we have a huge potential to harness innovation in the European market.
No, thank you. Yeah, and that really characterized I would say, the approach of the EPP, and maybe staying open to innovation, but also making sure, of course, there are some...
Being prudent, yeah.
Exactly, with safeguards. Yeah, thanks. And coming to that, then, as you were working on crypto in Parliament, what would be the right approach, in your view, to make sure that we manage the risks, but preserve innovation and opportunities?
I think the way that we normally do legislation in the European Parliament is the right way to have the big picture of what we are dealing with. So we have to contact with the different stakeholders that are involved in this market, be it the industry of the cryptocurrencies, the big data industries, be it with the authorities. So we have to bring them together to understand what is the best approach to deliver on the matter, and not being just on one side of the barricade, and with some, addressing this topic with some prejudice, and sometimes even in a very much ideological way, which is also not good, because if we look at the numbers, I referred to that earlier. Last year we had an increase of, I think, 17% of the users in the European market of cryptocurrencies. So it's a relevant number, and if we compare it to the other jurisdictions across the world, it's still smaller. But anyway, it's relevant, or it's important. And so we really have to bring these people together, government, authorities, industry, to fully understand what we are dealing with, and in a way that does not isolate Europe from the innovation across other geographies in the world. So I think this is the right approach. This is what I've been doing. This is one of my concerns whenever I'm dealing with legislation. In particular, we are also we cannot neglect the taxation side of that, because it's very different across the different countries in the European Union. So we also have to look into that in a more integrated approach. We are talking about something that has also a big impact in the digital single market, and we have to find a fair base for both things, for innovation, for regulatory framework, and for taxation. Not forgetting, or making here maybe a brief note, that the technology that we are talking about, which is mainly cryptography and blockchain. In particular, blockchain is quite transparent, or it is transparent. It's not quite. It's a public book, a public ledger, where all the information can be disclosed. And there's also some aspects of that can be interest to the fight against tax evasion, tax fraud, or money laundering. So this is what we have to combine. And this is one of another element to the cryptocurrencies, or to the technology blockchain, that we have to look into, and that we have to make sure that we balance and we deliver, not, as I said, preventing the development of this innovation.
Yeah, thank you. I really like what you said also about trying to understand the technology as your legislator, and that also ties into the importance of raising awareness, hence digital literacy also for users. So I think this probably...
Digital and financial literacy, because
exactly.
The other day we had the numbers about the financial literacy in Europe, and there are some worrying numbers in relation, unfortunately, to my country, Portugal, which is the last on the graphic that was disclosed. So I think we have to work in both ways. It's digital literacy, it is financial literacy, because people have to make informed decisions, and they need to know. It was the same back in maybe 15 years ago when we had the financial crisis. A lot of people had signed some derivatives, products that they didn't fully grasp. So here we have the possibility, because all the information related to this topic of cryptocurrencies, cryptographies, crypto assets, NFTs is available online. We just have to make sure that people have access to it, and which they normally should have, and that they understand the complexity. I'm not saying that they have to understand the hash functions that are the basis of blockchain. I'm not saying that, but they need to understand that we are dealing with a new product. It's still very volatile. We have also NFTs, which are quite interesting to follow and a bit funny, if I can say. But they have risks, and we have to balance those risks, and that's what this regulatory framework that we are now discussing wants to bring.
Thank you, and it's definitely not a trivial topic, and I'm sure it's in good hands with you. I have a very quick final question. I was wondering what kind of person you are online yourself, if you're more a fan of podcasts or streaming videos or social media.
Well, I like both podcasts and streaming. Actually, I think streaming is probably the future of entertainment and even education. We see a lot of potential on that front. But I'm a big fan of podcasts, and as I travel a lot, it's always a good way to keep track on something new that comes up, like a book or a comment, political opinion, or even history. So I follow some podcasts related to these topics, and I'm very much fond of them. And I even have my own podcast, which is something that I very much cherish to do, where I have different. Well, it is in Portuguese. In Portuguese, the title makes sense. In English, I'm not so sure. It's called Europa a Meias, so it's basically it's a funny Yeah, it's a funny way of saying that we talk about European solidarity. Basically, it's the topic. It's the title of the podcast, and then we discuss with several. I even had the chance to speak to influencers, speak to other publics, and basically make use of the social media as we should do in politics these days. I mean, we have to be where people are, and we see growing online communities. We don't know if they follow EPP, for example, if they're going to vote for EPP, but at least they know the message of EPP. So I think they are good, channels to communicate our work as politicians. It's also a way of providing some accountability. And as well as checks and balances, so people know what are you doing, what are you not doing. They can question, and I'm very open to that. And I have many questions coming from Instagram, from Twitter, from Facebook, and now I'm even considering to have a TikTok account. So we have to make ourselves. We have to be innovative as well and use the potential of the social media, as well as not neglecting the importance of the media, of press, but of course having the chance to speak to one another more openly and easily. I think it's a good way of being in politics.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we have to be where people are. That's what you said, and it sounds great to me.
That's also what we are doing here today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you so much for joining Take a Look and being there with us today, Lydia Pereira. And thank you all very much for following us once more. See you soon again on Take a Look.